White Claw, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, we got some spoiler images for chapter 56 of the Boruto manga, and this right here seems to be extremely hype. Now one thing that we do know about this chapter is that they're basically building up the character of Code to be this next big bad villain that everybody else is going to have to eventually go up against. Now as of right now, we don't really know exactly how strong he is, but we know 100% Code without a limiter is actually going to be stronger than Jigen, and that right there, on top of that, he also has the Karma Seal as well, with the white Karma Seal being, you know, only having the quote-unquote good aspects to it. So Code is not necessarily going to be a vessel, an Otsutsuki member isn't necessarily going to reborn into the body of Code. That right there just makes Code that much more stronger. But regardless, I do want to get into the actual contents of these spoiler images. The first thing that I do want to point out is the fact that Boruto and Kawaki actually talking about how Code actually acquired the Karma Seal. Now I talked about this a little bit in yesterday's video, but now we actually do have some pictures of how Code actually did get the Karma Seal. Now we know about this process from around chapter 25. That chapter right there was basically when we got to see Kawaki himself get the Karma Seal through the exact same means, and it's pretty much via a test tube. We kind of got to see a little bit of this in the Boruto anime when Sasuke and Sai were actually investigating the Hidden Rain Village, and they actually found one of the Kado organization's previous hideouts. Now honestly, in the spoiler images, we really only got 2 screenshots of this, and when the actual chapter actually does come out, I'm pretty sure they're going to give us a little bit more insight and a little bit more visual evidence of exactly how Code was, and possibly even how Jigen was interacting with Code. One of the things that we did find out in the spoilers yesterday is the fact that Code and Kawaki were the only people to actually survive this experiment. One of the things that I definitely do find interesting is the fact that Code himself is a cyborg, whereas Kawaki himself isn't necessarily a cyborg. Now I don't necessarily know exactly what they're going to refer to Kawaki as, because of course Kawaki isn't 100% a child. Even though Kawaki was born a child, he did go through some sort of augmentation to pretty much create himself, or pretty much become a scientific ninjutsu. Now in my opinion, I think that right there will possibly be the best way to actually introduce these cyborgs, as to be extremely similar to Kawaki. So instead of looking at these cyborgs as like robots, we actually do look at them as human beings that were actually turned into these quote-unquote cyborgs. But those screenshots were pretty much nothing compared to the next screenshots that I'm going to show you guys. What we understand is that Code is going to be investigating, or he's going to be going over to Boru's hideout to actually get more cyborgs. It seems like Code is actually on a mission. In this screenshot, we see Code walking through like some snow, possibly the Antarctic or something like that, I don't know, and then all of a sudden he has his claw out and he's just stabbing people. Now of course these people are most likely going to be guarding Boru's hideout and basically trying to keep Code from actually attaining his goal. So of course Code is going to eventually see these guys as his enemies. But this right here is the first time that we do actually get to see Code in action. Now we don't necessarily get to see everything in terms of all the screenshots, but just from what we get to see right here, it's looking like Code is going to be, 1, extremely fast, and 2, it seems that he's going to be using his claws a lot. Now it's crazy because just in these spoils we haven't necessarily seen Code actually utilize his Karma Seal as of yet. Of course the Karma Seal did give him a speed boost, the Karma Seal did give him a power boost, but just to think, Code could potentially fly, he could potentially absorb chakra, he could potentially just fire off ki blasts by using the Karma Seal on top of all the things he has. That right there just seems absolutely insane. The last spoiler image that we did get was Code actually facing another cyborg. Now the cyborg looks like she's still in a capsule, and of course cyborgs, I'm pretty sure because they were quote-unquote put up or stored away, they're going to be held in this type of capsule. Now I talked about these cyborgs before. These cyborgs are potentially stronger than Jigen himself, and from what it seems like, I mean, Code actually got his hands on these cyborgs. Now we don't necessarily know for sure, but of course because Code is just facing this cyborg called quote-unquote Ada, it really seems dim. It really seems dim. Now those right there in my opinion were the most important screenshots that we did get. Of course we got some secondary, tertiary screenshots that we did get. We got to see Sumire on a cover. Me personally, I actually enjoy this. I know a lot of people are actually giving the Boruto manga flag for putting Sumire on the cover, but I honestly think it's a good addition. We also see Amato and Kawaki in the screenshot, and they were actually talking amongst each other, and also Sumire and Kawaki are talking amongst each other as well. This right here would be extremely weird if we didn't already get to see what we've seen in the Boruto anime, which is basically Sumire and Kawaki bonding in the Boruto anime. Now of course they're not necessarily on the best of terms in the Boruto anime, but just building that rapport with each other, of course you get to understand how Kawaki and Sumire are so friendly right now in the Boruto manga. But as far as these chapters go, let me know what you guys think about these spoilers in the comment section below, and give me some of your opinions on Code. I mean, I don't understand that Code, before we even knew, I mean, any of this, we already thought that Code is probably going to be one of the strongest members of the Kado organization already, and now to see Code get his own arc, I mean, just as a fan of the character of Code, mode. I'm super happy. Now the specific content is going to be a completely different story. I do want to talk about that and give my opinions on the cyborgs and potentially a different video probably after the chapter does drop, so I can get a little bit more information about exactly what these cyborgs are and how they are actually going to be impacting the Boruto story in the future. But let me know what you guys think. It's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.